All right, we should be live for another day of politics. Starting off the stream with a Dublin, Ireland live camera. Take a look at this. Alright, we should be good to go on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Was just double checking. We are live, we are good to go. To start things off, we have a few things to go over. CNN caught lying. I guess that's just a regular day for CNN at this point. But this time, I guess people are actually calling them out for it. We'll get right into that.
Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device.
Here's the white guy in question. No! No! What? I love it when I get to talk about media figures that I at the very beginning of the time that I started kind of watching and participating in politics a little bit more and maybe paying more attention, that I had a little bit of respect for, but not a ton. Like, so Jake Tapper, when he was a White House correspondent, more than he was a big on-air kind of leading a show guy, I would listen, and I think he asked some pretty good questions back in the day. And over time, I just really did not like what I saw coming out of Jake Tapper's mouth, especially as it related to Joe Biden and being the last person on the planet to be able to see that there was some cognitive decline and some issues that we really needed to address. And so yesterday, I can tie two of these things together. So somebody I do like, Dan Bongino, was announcing that the FBI had finally apprehended a suspect in the January 6th pipe bombing incident.
Folks, this is what it's like when you work for a president who tells you to go get the bad guys and stop focusing on other extraneous things not related to law enforcement. This is what happens. We had a great team. I know it's said a lot in this business. It was a team effort. It becomes cliched, but cliches are useful for a reason because they matter. And this was a team effort. The director and the attorney general emphasized that it was not a new public tip this was our internal work at the FBI. And I want to just really express my sincere gratitude to this attorney general and this president for allowing us the latitude. I spoke with Ms. Bondi very early maybe day 2. And I said, we're going to get this guy. And she said, yes, you are. And we did.
Okay.
You're gonna do it.
She did so much work. She said, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Go
Nailed
Dave.
it.
I'm not gonna, but
I'm on my way to, yeah.
You guys take care of that.
You are. I'm going to go on Fox News again.
I have some binders that I need to put together.
That's true. We have the Epstein files to redact that have already been released publicly, so we can release it again and say it's new information. But, you know, hey, we'll
She
get
is
on
hot, though, so, you know.
Yeah, for 104,
No,
but
Swing! I would.
What does that matter?
A lot.
yeah, what does that matter?
Have you lived life?
Apparently I've lived a very long time, but it's friendless, according to
matters
Tim. And
for,
so
like, most things.
I guess I've
Would you rather be smart,
lived some life.
smart and ugly, or hot and stupid?
Smart and ugly.
Well, I get. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
hot and stupid. I'd rather be hot and stupid.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle. That's what I think. I'm in the middle. I'm average and average.
Yeah, that's what I like to balance it out.
I don't think this is the kind of balance you want to go for. But Jake Tapper, my good friend Jake, never wants to be wrong. He always wants to make sure that he gives you the straight news. And he does, listen, not everybody does this, but he does his research, and he broke it down on CNN last night.
the FBI finally announced that they had arrested a suspect accused of planting pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosion.
Wow. Jake Tapper thinks if you have a big house, you can't be anything but white.
Andy lived in a nice neighborhood that was quiet with no crime.
Whoa.
So
Jake Tapper said no blacks in the suburbs.
Here's the white guy in question. No! No! What? Come on.
Close enough.
A lot of white tint.
Be cold.
No, you know what? He is white. Look at him. Just a dark. He's a dark-skinned white guy.
He's Carlton at best.
Yeah, he's white if you squint your eyes. I'm sure he could pass as white.
Yeah, Uncle Tommy vibes, I guess. That's what Jake Tapper meant, of course.
Oh.
Have they?
It's a Freudian
I mean,
slip.
it's not.
Well,
Don't think. I mean,
teleprompter?
white guy, Jake Tapper. I mean, did somebody go? No, Jake, he's black. Did he ever correct? By the way, do we know if he's since corrected?
He'll write a book.
He'll read.
This is all a prequel to a book.
Yeah, exactly. We had the wrong Brian Coleman. Is it Brian Coleman? Brian Cole Jr. Cole. Yeah, I don't want to get these names. Listen, the name is not important so much as he's black versus he's not white, right? He's not actually what you said. So anyway,
Jake doesn't see color.
he he certainly does. He certainly does when it suits him. So, maybe some integrity. You know what? Admonish yourself. And no, don't you do it to me, Tim. I'm saying no, listen, the word happened. It did. But I'm not calling for it. I'm saying that Jake Tapper deserves an admonishment because he's a moron. But now I want you to do me a favor and compare that to the image CNN is using to describe the suspect.
Here we go.
That's
fine.
different pipe bomber.
You know who else fails? Big wireless networks. That's why I see how.
All right, so we just wanted to get that quick thing out of the way. CNN, known for lying. That one was a pretty big one. That was a pretty bad one as well. I guess because he thought, oh, Brian J. Cole, it's just a white dude right off the bat. Or I don't know what the thought process behind that one was. But journalism at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. CNN and mainstream media at its finest. We have a Moose on the Loose video. Let's get right into it.
Justice finds a proposed referendum question on separation contravenes the Constitution. In a decision Friday, Justice Colin Feasby said it's because the proposal, as it stands, would violate the Charter and Indigenous treaty rights.
Got a bunch of stuff happening here today. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got Mark Carney dishing out a contract to his buddy to Telesat Lightspeed. Last night we had the vote on the pipeline to Alberta, and well, Mark Carney's exposed in not supporting his own MOU. Got a bunch of stuff here. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got Feds count 577 staffers, DEI programs, but acknowledge many large departments wouldn't disclose figures on how many more staff are working on representation goals. Meanwhile, we've got nurses and plumbers and construction workers sleeping in their cars in Canada. Got this one from Karina Gould. Well, look at this joke. He says, over the past couple of months, I've had many people approach me about considering running for leadership of the Ontario Liberal Party. Yeah, right. She did so bad in the Liberal leadership race. This is a bunch of nonsense. This is just her trying to show support for Mark Carney, try to make it back up to be a minister. That's exactly what this is. Notice too, she's got her comments blocked here. Speaking of censorship, we have teens under 16 years old can no longer use social media in Australia. This is a real thing.
This is the day when Australian families are taking back power from these big tech companies, and they're asserting the right of kids to be kids and for parents to have greater peace of mind.
Let parents be parents, get out of my rudder. Yeah, this is a decision for parents, not the government. Now ban gambling ads if you really care about kids. Yeah, right. Moving ahead, we've got this bombshell here. We've got Canada's ambassador and chief trade negotiator with the US to step down ahead of Kuzma review. This is making waves here, and who's going to be her replacement?
Dan, your thoughts on the decision that Ambassador Hillman is making, and then any hints or clues? I think Bloomberg is reporting it could be Mark Wiseman, for example, who steps into, I don't have independent confirmation of that, but...
Mark Wiseman. If you've been following the channel for a while, that should be sending chills down your spine. Who's this guy? He's one of the creators of the Century Initiative. This group wants to bring in 100 million people into Canada by 2100. This is why we have this immigration crisis in Canada, is guys like this. These guys are directly connected to the Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau, all of them. You can see here, look at this guy's resume. Working backwards, he was a senior advisor and chairman at Lazard and Boston Consulting Group, going back, board of directors Nova Chemicals, senior managing director at BlackRock, global head of active equities. Then going further back here, before BlackRock, he was president and CEO of the Canada Pension Plan. Interesting. Mark Carney is getting his A-team in. I would not be surprised if tomorrow it's announced that this guy is taking over this role for Mark Carney. And if he does so, this will be the dumbest decision possible, because who's he going to be negotiating with? Donald Trump. You think Donald Trump is pro-Century Initiative, jack Canada's immigration to 100 million people by 2100? No, he's deporting people. He has ICE rounding up people and chucking them out of the country, putting them on planes and flying them back to where they came from. This is not a person we want to have negotiate with the Trump administration.
Those people I ask right now are saying that sounds about right. Who could step into her shoes? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by recognizing, as Kathleen has done, the enormous achievements of Ambassador Hillman, and certainly the profile that she's built in this role.
They did ask her in another interview why she's stepping down, and they asked her if it was her choice, and she said it's her choice. I think Carney or someone came in and gave her a sweet deal and was like, okay, time for you to get out. We'll throw you some Brookfield shares or whatever it may be. Maybe there's nothing there. Maybe she just wanted to retire, but the timing is very suspicious. You have a guy like Mark Wiseman come in. Something's fishy.
As you say in the outset here, not a big surprise that she is stepping down, and been doing this role for some time, and I do think at a certain point the Prime Minister was going to look to bring in his own person for this position. Yeah, as you say, there's speculation it may be Mark Wiseman, the former head of the Canadian Pension Fund. I think that is, worthy speculation. Certainly, that we'll see if that's confirmed, and if it's true, it's certainly a name that's been floated around for some time to take on a role like this, and I think would be consistent with a trend we've seen from this Prime Minister and his office, which is bringing in private sector, corporate leaders, this country that have profile and a strong reputation with the business community to
and portfolios that likely have Brookfield shares. Let's get real here.
Take on roles like this one to provide the kind of leadership the Prime Minister, I think, has made a commitment to Canadians he intends to bring, and certainly an appointment like Mr. Wiseman would continue that.
This little Dan Moulton here is so naive. These people are delusional. They think Mark Carney's trying to help our country.
I think where we have to be a little bit careful here, I mean, everybody in Washington has Google, and Wiseman was one of the co-authors of the Century Initiative, which, wasn't that big of a deal in our election, but a very, very kind of pro-immigrant, throw open the borders sort of policy that might go against what a Trump administration might want to see. But you can't criticize his business credentials. I just also think the stakes are so high here. So if we're shuffling the chairs and then we're putting people in new positions, if he doesn't deliver and if there isn't a change in tone, it'll be seen as a massive disappointment. So I wish him, if it is him, all the best. I like Dan and Kathleen. I do thank Ambassador Hillman for her many years of exemplary service, and I hope it works.
I honestly don't care about Mark Wiseman's business credentials. Anyone who comes up with a plan, the Century Initiative, and pushes it through to Justin Trudeau, who opened the floodgates, which has destroyed Canadian lives, should have nothing to do with our government. Moving ahead, we got Mark Carney giving one of his buddies a big government contract. That's right, Telesat Lightspeed getting a $2.92 million contract through the NORAD modernization project.
Today, I'm proud to announce a strategic partnership with Telesat and MDA Space to deliver the Enhanced Satellite Communications Project, Polar. These companies will design, develop, and deliver the satellites systems that our armed forces need.
They can't, though. SpaceX will have to launch these satellites because Telesat can't launch satellites into space. They have no way of doing it.
We're prioritizing advanced dual-use technologies that connect not only our CAF members, but also ensures sovereign Canadian connectivity infrastructure. It's one of the first major procurements led by our new Defense Investment Agency. As part of this partnership, Canada is awarding $2.92 million to Telesat and MDA Space to start engineering and analysis, ensuring the system is Canadian-made, reliable, and built for northern conditions. What we're announcing today is exactly what Canadians should expect: clear priorities, smart investments, and solutions that work in the real world. This project strengthens our armed forces, protects Canadian sovereignty, and will lead to the creation of hundreds, if not thousands, of high-value added jobs.
This will just lead to another one of Mark Carney's buddies getting Canadian taxpayer money. This company, Telesat, just last year got billions of dollars of Canadian taxpayer money as an interest-free loan for a decade from the Justin Trudeau Liberal government. I've mentioned this multiple times. How many people would love to have a couple $1 billion interest-free for many years? You could just stick that in a GIC and make hundreds of millions of dollars and get rich off of that. And here they are with another contract, $2.9 million. And this is just the start of their procurement. So here's the project here. Ottawa signs partnership with Canadian firms on military Arctic satellite project. So this is a part of a much bigger $38.6 billion North American Aerospace Defense Command modernization. Federal government awarded this contract to Telesat Lightspeed for engineering and options analysis. Here's Mark Carney standing with Dan Goldberg, the CEO of Telesat Lightspeed. This kind of body language here, these guys are friends. You don't put your hand on someone's shoulder, have a laugh with them if you're not friends with them. Here's another photo. I don't know who she is, but Dan Goldberg, Mark Carney. Convenient he's getting this contract. But in this case, we don't need to read body language as we have this article here from the National Post. It says Carney and Telesat CEO Dan Goldberg have been described as good friends, including in a 2019 profile by the Ottawa Business Journal, which is this here. CEO of the Year, Telesat's Dan Goldberg is at the epicenter of everything. It was quite a few years ago at the London Marathon. Goldberg, the CEO of Ottawa-based satellite communications provider Telesat, was in the British capital to visit his good friend Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England, to take part in the world-famous race while he was there. It says Dan was as sick as he has ever been, recalls Carney, who had met Goldberg when their kids played in the same preschool soccer league in Ottawa nearly 15 years ago. These guys have been friends for a long time through their kids. The admiration in Carney's voice speaks volumes of Goldberg as low-key yet accomplished a business leader you'll ever find in Ottawa or anywhere in Canada for that matter. We also have this article from The Logic. It says closer to home, a good friend of Carney's is Dan Goldberg, Chief Executive Officer of, goes on to say here, the Conservatives have called for Canada to hire Elon Musk's Starlink to deliver satellite broadband instead of Telesat, and pointed to Carney-Goldberg friendship as a red flag. This is a major red flag. These guys are good friends. This goes back 15 years from preschool soccer. Now Mark Carney's dealing out a crony deal to his buddy here. Moving ahead, we've got Pierre's motion.
Every single deal Mark Carney does is going to benefit somebody he knows. It doesn't really surprise me or shock me anymore. It's like Mark Carney gives a couple billion, trillion, gajillion dollars to some company in Brazil, and it's tied to his friend he grew up with and like blah, 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 or it's somebody he knows related down whatever bloodline. Like, everything he does is going to benefit somebody he knows. It just doesn't shock me anymore. Or it's tied to Brookfield. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, of course. It honestly just, nothing shocks me anymore when it comes to the things he invests in, or the people he's tied with, or any of the things that are floating around his name. Of course it's all bad. Of course it's all leading to what he wants, his net zero 2050 plan or whatever, but nothing shocks me anymore when it comes to this.
Here on the pipeline, proving that Mark Carney isn't actually in favor of the pipeline.
Development impulse lie. Does he think it's a good idea to put a pipeline across the BC Northwest to the Pacific Coast? Or does he believe the pipeline to Keystone XL expansion is the way to go, or TMX? We don't actually have a clear, I think, statement or declaration from the Prime Minister on that. In that regard, I kind of welcome any clarity we get. And what we're getting more in, like, as the days go by since the signing of the MOU, is we're getting a bit more clarity on how Mr. Carney sees the role of Indigenous peoples and the need for agreement, the role of consultation with the BC government, and, does there have to be agreement? But it's, I think, all of it kind of a piecemeal, because he didn't actually do a full-on news conference on this yet.
Right. But on this, when you read the plain black and white on page 2, the projects include construction of one or more private sector constructed and financed pipelines with Indigenous people co-ownership and economic benefits. And they talk about if the
priority to Asian markets.
Right. So if the conditions are met, they will to a deep water port, though. That's the trick there, right?
Yeah.
So this is what they talk about deeper in it. That, I mean, they have signed an agreement, lost the minister, and getting hammered by environmentalists. If they're not serious about it, this is a pretty dumb way to do politics.
I think the MOU is a pretty serious piece of political work.
These people are a piece of work. They're still trying to trick Canadians with this stuff. This is all just for show. They're never going to build a pipeline. It's because building a pipeline is popular among Canadians. Over half Canadians, more than half across the country. 65-70% of Canadians want a new pipeline. That's why he's keeping this dog and pony show going. We've got Corey Hogan here on CTV.
David Cochrane is so manipulative as well. He sits there and goes, that's a pretty dumb way of doing things, right? Like you agree with me, right? Like, the Conservatives are really, really stupid, right? Like, you agree with me, right? Like, he's such a weirdo. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. He can't be unbiased to save his life. Like, if it actually came down to it, I don't think he could actually be unbiased. It's just disgusting. And the government funds them hand over fist. The Conservatives are like, they're like kind of stupid, right? Like, you agree with me, right? Like, he's just so strange. Just be a journalist for once in your life. What's wrong with you? Holy Christ.
Using Daniel Smith and Scott Moe's as shield, as a bunch of them are doing right now. They signed it. They're all for it.
Understanding that calls for $130 a ton effective carbon price in Alberta.
You know, they've been very clear that they didn't want to put that into their amendment. I asked the Leader of the Opposition if he would do that today in the House of Commons. He wasn't willing to do that. But I think it would be tough for them to vote against a memorandum of understanding that Danielle Smith has supported, a memorandum of understanding that Scott Moe has supported, the one that Doug Ford has supported. So
yeah, and the reason why they didn't put that carbon tax in there is because it's ruining Canadian lives. It is jacking up the price of everything for nothing. You can't pay to change the weather. No matter how many times they try to trick Canadians with this, if you truly believed in fighting for the environment, you wouldn't have voted for Mark Carney's budget, which cut the 2 billion trees program. This clown show seems to never end. Look at this table salt posting. There's 3 American oil refineries less than 50 kilometers from Elizabeth May's riding in Saanich Gulf Islands. 3 of them. Elizabeth May's ridings over here. Now with this, we do have the voice of reason here. I thought this was a great take from Brian Lilly.
At an earlier news conference, Energy Minister Tim Hodgson and a bunch of other cabinet ministers and Liberal MPs got together and they described how the Conservative motion is divisive, that this is an attempt to divide people and this is horrible and it doesn't respect First Nations. None of it is true. This is simply an attempt by the Carney Liberals to say, we can't vote for this because too many people within our own Liberal caucus will not support a pipeline. That's what this comes down to. This is not a divisive motion. It's literally a copy and paste. And if you have to say, well, we can only vote for the full MOU, but we can't vote for part of the MOU, then that's because there's divisions within your own party. That's what's happening right now. The Carney Liberals are completely divided. Prime Minister Mark Carney has committed to a process that could lead to a pipeline for Alberta oil. And too many within his own party, be they British Columbia MPs, Ontario MPs, maybe some within Alberta, there's only a couple of them, but definitely Quebec MPs, Atlantic Canadians. They don't want that sort of thing to go forward. I'm not saying it's all Liberals, but it's too many of them. And that is a real issue for Carney. He has not figured out that he is the reason that they are employed, and he should be telling them, you're going to stand up and vote for this. You're going to do what I tell you. Instead, he is marching to their drum instead of them marching to his drum.
At last count, I believe there's 11 Liberals all pushing hard back against this. So Brian Lilly's right here. He can't actually let this go through to a vote because there's already division in his caucus. So this is all for show to try to pull in more swing voters without actually delivering a pipeline. This is all smoke and mirrors. This will never happen if a Liberal government is in power.
He is an incredibly powerful political figure right now because he won the election the Liberals never thought they would, and yet he cannot exercise his own authority within the party in order to make this vote go the way it should. So the Liberals are going to look like they are opposed to a pipeline. They're going to try and say, well, this is just divisiveness. No, this is weakness on the part of Carney. This is weakness on the part of the Liberals. And it doesn't matter what they say. It's not going to change that.
It's a great take here. It goes to show Carney's lost control of his caucus here. He thought he could just be Mr. Banker and tell everyone what to do, and that's not working. They're pushing back against him because there's enough of them doing it. It's not just one. Stephen Guilbeault stepped up and said, I'm not going to be a minister anymore for this. And that's given more of them courage to come forward and say, I'm not voting for this pipeline either. But Carney's going to keep trying to trick Canadians.
And Poilievre exposed 11 MPs yesterday during question period. And in my most recent video, I actually matched the writing to the face. Matched the writing to the face. Let's take a look here. Get past the screaming fool Tim.
This are the Conservatives. Maybe we should tell that to the Liberal member for West Vancouver Sunshine Coast, the Liberal member for Vancouver Grenville, the Liberal member for Beaches East York, the Liberal member for Victoria, for Vancouver Quadra, South Surrey White Rock, Honoré Mercier, Fleetwood Port Kells, Laurier Ste. Marie, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, North Vancouver, Capilano. These are all the 11 Liberal MPs who have...
So there you have it. And yeah, I can only imagine more and more will begin to follow suit with that, because Carney's trying to pander to everybody, and you can't do that. It's just not going to work. His caucus is probably fractured right now. They'll sit there and they'll be united in the House in the eyes of the public. That way they look like they're all good, but behind the scenes, it's exactly what happened with Trudeau in his final months. They stood there in question period and all acted like they were united. They would clap for him when he spoke, right? They would do all that stuff. They would prop him up. They would do everything. But behind the scenes, they were having meeting after meeting, and ministers were fed up with Trudeau. And we're in the early stages right now with Mark Carney, and we're not even a full year in, and they're already beginning to rebel. Stephen Guilbeault being a big one. So I don't think this government's going to last too much longer.
Into thinking that he will do this, even though he won't, because he wants the votes. He's got a net zero agenda to roll out. He wants to get rich off all of this. He doesn't care about Canada. He's 91% invested in America. The guy does not care about Canada. Meanwhile, we've got David Cochrane here running Shield all night long.
Like, this was a tactic today, and the Liberals called BS on it and said we're not going to play that game, and that's clearly what happened. And it seems as if there's no one else willing to go along with it. So here we are. I mean,
here we are, more corrupt media putting out bullcrap propaganda. This was a very smart move because it forced Carney to admit that he is not going to support a pipeline. I wonder if this is a Steve Outhouse putting forward some political plays here, because what the Conservatives are doing here recently are very on point. Pierre's speech at the press event, this all very good stuff. It's hitting hard. And that's why they come out and say this is divisive, blah, 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 because they got nothing else. It's proving they're not in it for Canada. And the longer this goes on, we're going to be seeing more stuff like this. I don't know if this is in Canada. It doesn't really matter. It's winter. What we're seeing here is that Amazon's electric vans are now charging in the snow using a diesel generator. Is this their net zero agenda being fully realized?
So I understand green energy, electric vehicles, Amazon's doing their part, stay green. But doesn't it defeat the purpose when you literally have a diesel-powered generator electrifying all of the electric vehicles? It makes no sense.
It's all a grift. They're not in it for the environment. They're in it for themselves. So moving ahead here, we've got quite the kerfuffle going on with Alberta separation. So we had a judge who used a provision that was deep within the process well after petition would be successful to essentially block this petition from going forward of this question of separation.
Justice finds a proposed referendum question on separation contravenes the Constitution. In a decision Friday, Justice Colin Feasby said it's because the proposal, as it stands, would violate the Charter and Indigenous treaty rights. But one political scientist says that may not be the end of the process.
The fact that it's been found unconstitutional doesn't necessarily mean that the question can't be put. What the government has done with Bill 14 is said that that a referendum question that asks the government to do something that is unconstitutional or outside of provincial jurisdiction is not binding.
Introduced Thursday, Bill 14 proposes several changes for citizen-led referendum questions. One of them considers applications to never have been made if they were submitted before the amendments come into effect and a petition was not issued. Justice Minister Mickey Amery said petitioners could reapply.
It appears that it will not only be easier to launch a referendum question, but there's no limit on how many times the same question can be brought up.
The justice did say a different referendum proposal could be constitutional. The Alberta Prosperity Project plans to resubmit its question.
We're thrilled with where we're at, and we're very happy and grateful to Danielle Smith and her government for taking the steps that they took.
So, yeah, they struck down the initial one there, the one that was done before the changes. After the changes, they can resubmit it and redo all this. And as it said, it can happen multiple times. The judge cited Indigenous treaties as the reason here for trying to block this. And, well, Danielle Smith's government came forward and put forward Bill 14, which removed this nonsense, which was far at the end of this process anyways, to allow people to have this democratic process of putting forward a petition. So the Alberta Prosperity Project will probably put this forward in January, and there'll be a referendum vote to separate or to not separate in October of 2026.
And there you have it. Moving onward, switching gears here to some American politics. There is a Democrat that I guess is trying to run for either the face of the party or maybe she's a mayor. I don't know. I don't follow it that closely, but Jasmine Crockett is her name. If you see her face, you'll probably recognize her because she's been in a lot of stuff recently on social media. She released a advertisement to promote herself, and it's literally 45 seconds straight of Donald Trump roasting her. Now, I need to point out, this is supposed to be an ad promoting her.
How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her? She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man. She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
What the fuck are you thinking? Other than the fact that, yeah, I guess you are incredibly low IQ. This is an advertisement supposed to be promoting her for the U.S. Senate. And it's just Trump calling her stupid on repeat. Over and over again. Low IQ and stupid. Wow. What a way to promote yourself. Hey guys, vote for me in the next election so I can become a part of the U.S. Senate. I'm incredibly low IQ. That's all I get from that. Alright, moving back to Canadian politics. Right after the Conservatives proposed the MOU motion, which everybody voted against, no shock at all. They literally took the words from the MOU one for one, essentially, put it into a motion, and it was shut down both times. We have an interview here with Andrew Scheer directly after the motion. I believe it was directly after the motion. Should be right around that time.
Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer, who is live with us now from the House of Commons. Hi, Mr. Scheer. Good to see you again. Thank you very much for making the time. Okay, let me just make sure I can hear you. Can I hear you now? Sorry.
I can hear you fine. I don't know if you can hear me, but
now
okay.
I've got you. My apologies. My apologies. Let me just start off on the amendments today, because when we spoke last night, it was just a straight up and down, do you support the construction of an additional pipeline? Today, Mr. Poilievre in the morning announced some additional language from the MOU around carbon capture, for example, Indigenous ownership, working with BC. It didn't include the industrial price on carbon. If you were going to include other stuff, why not that?
Well, Conservatives have always been opposed to carbon taxes, but really this vote is about the essence of it. You know, the point of the MOU, the point of Mark Carney flying out to Alberta and going through the signing ceremony was to get to a pipeline. It wasn't really for anything else. And what we're hoping to do is get Liberals on the record here in Ottawa. Do they support this deal that their own Prime Minister signed? When we think about what it's going to take to get a pipeline built to the Pacific Ocean, this should be the easiest part of it. And the fact that Mark Carney can't even get his own caucus on board tells us that he's not going to be able to succeed on this. How is he ever going to navigate through all the various consultations, meetings with different provincial premiers, if he can't even come to Ottawa and get the very MPs who sit in his caucus to sign on to the deal that he signed himself?
But is there, why doesn't the other party to that agreement, in the Premier Danielle Smith, have the same concerns that you're raising right now? Like, why isn't she saying, I'm worried about this actually happening? She's the one that signed it. She's also a conservative. She's been very critical of federal Liberals in the past for a lack of commitment to additional pipeline export capacity. She isn't saying what you're saying.
Well, look, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the Premier of Alberta. I suppose that, you know, if Mark Carney wants to compare his record to Justin Trudeau's record and offer even a glimmer of hope to the province of Alberta, the government of Alberta is going to make those kinds of decisions. What the Conservatives are offering the people of Alberta and all Canadians is a yes. We support a pipeline to the Pacific Coast. We want Canada to sell more of our energy to Asian countries, getting off that U.S. dependence. And Vashi, when other countries around the world are buying Canadian exports, that means that they do that in Canadian dollars. That's going to boost the purchasing price of the Canadian dollar. It's going to benefit every Canadian who has to buy things in the grocery store or in other stores. This is a win-win all around. And what Conservatives would do is we would get that path to the Pacific Ocean, getting Western Canadian natural resources to market without an industrial carbon tax, without all these new hoops and hurdles that's forcing Alberta to navigate through even more red tape to get to a yes. So that's the contrast here. But the point of the motion here tonight is this motion doesn't contradict anything in the MOU. It doesn't ask Liberals to denounce any part of the MOU. We're just trying to find out is, can Mark Carney find consensus even in his own caucus to support a pipeline? And as of 5:10 this evening, the answer to that is no.
But why does he need that consensus in order to support the pipeline? Like, in the MOU, it expressly says that he will. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of your party, has taken views on a wide variety of subjects that not all your MPs agree on. Why is that consensus necessary?
Well, because I believe what Canadians are watching unfold is this. Mark Carney does not believe in developing more oil and gas. He wrote that in his book, and I know you've at least I know you're familiar with that. He has specifically written chapter and verse. He's gone on well, he's gone on TV shows and he's talked about the need to leave our oil and gas in the ground. But he's got a problem because Canadians want it. So what he's doing is he's telling Canadians right now, he said, oh, you know, some date far into the future, 2027, maybe 2029, there's a possibility of a pipeline. And he's coming back to Ottawa and he's telling all the people who share his radical ideology, his leave it in the ground, you know, praise of carbon taxes team here in Ottawa, that don't worry, it'll never happen. And that's what we're trying to draw out here, to show Canadians, like, if the Liberal caucus had confidence in the MOU that Mark Carney signed himself, this should be a no-brainer. This should have been a Tuesday morning announcement where they said, of course we're going to vote in favor of this. Mark Carney just signed on to it. But the fact that they're so twisted on this, the fact it took them days and days to arrive at a decision, tells you that they're not in support of this. And the reason why this is important is because there are elements in this MOU that will require changes to legislation. And if Mark Carney can't get his own team on board, what does that say about what would be required to actually get it passed? And when we think about all the hurdles that he's, you know, Indigenous consultation is difficult. It's important, but it's difficult. Working with provinces is difficult, but it's important. This should be the easiest part of the entire approval process, getting Liberals to agree with their own Liberal leaders' MOU, and Mark Carney can't get that done.
But if I think back to the rationale that your party has provided for calling for, let's say, a lot of the environmental regulations to be lifted, for calling, you know, for various processes to be superseded, it's all been about, you know, fostering an environment where the private sector wants to invest more, where the uncertainty that you allege was created under the previous Prime Minister is removed. What does making it a political football, what purpose does that serve in that vein? Like, are you not sending a signal by trying to expose what you would characterize as a very divided caucus, like cast doubt on this MOU? Are you not doing exactly what you said Prime Minister Justin Trudeau did?
Well, first of all, I don't believe it's fair to say we're alleging that there was uncertainty in investment in the natural resource sector. every single major Canadian pipeline project was either vetoed or canceled or abandoned, and those Canadian energy companies took those dollars and invested in the United States to the point where the Liberal government had to buy a pipeline, something that never happened in previous Conservative or even previous Liberal governments. And what this motion was all about was to show that consensus here in Ottawa that, yes, Conservatives have been in favor of pipelines, we've been in favor of exporting more of our natural resources, and now it's the Liberals that are blocking that. The only party that has turned this into a political football is the Liberal Party. We took the words right out of the MOU. We literally lifted it, copied and pasted it, because we wanted Liberals to be able to we wanted Liberals to be able to vote in favor of this.
Yeah, but respectfully, as I said, like you cherry-picked parts of the MOU and only decided to change that today, and still not to a fulsome degree.
No, I reject that premise, because there's not one single part of this motion that asks a Liberal to vote against another part. Again, why did Mark Carney go to Alberta? Why did he sit down beside Premier Daniel Smith to sign this MOU? It wasn't to get to a yes on anything other than a pipeline to the Pacific. So the point was, let's all agree on that. Liberals and Conservatives might have a difference of opinion on how to get there, on how to do that without, say, a massive hike in the carbon tax, but surely after that MOU was signed, we can all agree that that was the goal. And we fully expected that the Liberals would vote in favor of this. Then they started raising opposition. They started raising objections based on carbon capture, based on Indigenous consultation, working with other provinces. So we said, okay, well, let's take that off the table for you. Let's put that into the motion. This was a good faith effort to show some kind of consensus here in Ottawa, to send that signal to the investment community that the two major parties in Canada support a pipeline to the Pacific, and the Liberals can't even deliver their part of it.
Mr. Scheer, with great respect, you think that you think Canadians will believe that you wanted to show consensus in good faith, that you did not want to expose divisions within the Liberals on an issue that has been a political winner for your party and now appears to be less so?
Just because the Liberals say something doesn't make it true, Vashti. You'll pardon me for taking Mark Carney at his word. When he signs the MOU and says that all Liberals support it, I believe it's totally fair to say, okay, well, let's have the House of Commons endorse that. The only people, the only party that has turned this into any kind of a as you say, a political football or a division are the Liberals. Every other party is very clear on where they stand. Don Davies and the NDP, extremely clear. They don't support pipelines. That's fine. They can take that message to the Canadian people. The Conservative Party, we've been very clear for the past 10 years and prior. We support our men and women in the energy sector. We see the benefit for all Canadians selling more of our natural resources around the world. It's only the Liberals that are twisting themselves up on this, and they're projecting. They're projecting onto the Conservative Party. They're trying to spin the media into saying that this is somehow something that the Conservatives are doing. We literally took Mark Carney at his word. We took his words on the page that he signed himself, and we're just asking the House of Commons to endorse that.
Okay, we'll look forward to the vote. Mr. Scheer, thank you so much for making the time for this. I appreciate it.
Okay, I guess that was before the vote. I have no idea. It says Liberals reject the amendment in the motion, and then she says we'll wait for the vote. I don't know at this point. Maybe there were two votes. I know a bunch of Liberal MPs did come out previous to the vote saying they weren't going to, so maybe that's what that was. At the end of the day, vote didn't pass. We all knew that. It just shows how the Liberals are. And speaking of how the Liberals are and how they act and how they deal with situations, I believe this was the Justice and Human Rights Committee. They brought on a new chair. And this Liberal chair is shockingly bad. Like, so bad to the point where it's like full dictator at times. Truly absurd the level this man is willing to go. And shout out Canadian Capital Clips for this one here. But anyway, moving forward into this.
I see what the Liberal members are doing, Mr. Chair. They say one thing to the community at large. They say one thing to the House, accusing us, including the parliamentary secretary herself, accusing Conservatives of deliberately blocking the study of C-14. I have now brought forth a unanimous consent motion that could have dealt with prioritizing bail and sentencing. To my colleague, Mr. Lawton's point, I'm not done yet.
I know, Mr. Brock, with all due respect, and I really don't want to interrupt anybody. I don't want to.
Well, then why are you interrupting me, Chair? I'm not even done my point. No one has raised a point of order. You're supposed to be independent, Chair.
I am independent, Mr. Brock.
Now when you interrupt me, you're not.
And if you're going to continue making the same point you did on the point of order
earlier. How do you know? Because you're not allowing me to finish my comments.
Same thing.
You're not allowing me to finish my comments, Chair.
You just repeated the same thing.
That's completely inappropriate.
What I'm saying is you need to stick to the amendment we're dealing with right now.
And I'm speaking to that. If you'll let me finish,
okay,
I will speak to it.
As long as you keep it relevant to the clause we're debating, that'll be fine. Thank you, Mr. Brock. Continue.
Now, Mr. Lawton raised serious concerns about Bill C-9. Now, when we raise concerns about Bill C-9, that is extremely relevant to every clause by clause that we are about to consider. Because he is not narrowing his commentary with respect to Block 2 does not, by definition, automatically mean that he's not speaking with relevancy to the whole purpose behind C-9. That's where I object. That's where I wanted to support my colleague. That's why I wanted to call out these Liberal members who refuse to be honest with Canadians that we need to deal.
No, and I'm going to make this point whether it's a Liberal or Conservative or a Bloc member. If people are going to start calling each other names and using words like lying, this meeting is going to be really long, and I'm not going to put up with this. Well, Mr. Brock,
I'll sit all night, Chair.
Well, and we might be.
Give me the resources, I'll sit all night.
I know better than that, and my colleagues on my right know better than that. Please, I'm just asking for a level of civility here. Do not use words like lying, ascribing sort of motive to people when they haven't been. It's out of line. So, Mr. Brock, you have the floor, but I'm pleading with you.
Well, and I hope,
sir,
Chair,
I will follow the same rules regardless of who is talking.
Sure, and I take your comments at heart, and I hope that when you hear your colleagues, particularly the parliamentary secretary in the House, using that type of language, that you will pull her aside and you will call her out. Okay?
Except
now,
we're not in the House. I can only control the process at the committee.
Right.
So let's
and
move
I
on.
wanted to continue, sir, because I had some grave concerns, and that's why I challenged your decision, because I don't know what authority in the Green Book that you are relying upon to rule that my motion that I just indicated that I wanted to deal with, which was a dilatory motion, was not appropriate to be dealt with here and now. You made that ruling saying the block motion takes priority over my motion, and I wanted to ask you, perhaps in consultation with the clerks, what particular authority you are relying upon.
Okay, the issue's been dealt with, Mr. Brock. If that's the end of your submission, we can move on to Mr. Baber.
I'd quickly say, with respect to Block 2, that I'm mindful of the concern that Mr. Fontaine has articulated. However, that could easily be dealt with by an amendment that would remove the reference to the word swastika, as has been asked by various representatives of the Hindu community. However, I'd like to understand from the chair, and granted I am new here, nonetheless, this goes beyond our desire to talk about bail. I just want to understand the process here, and that is that if a motion is sought, every member it's I would almost think it's not just a matter of order, it's a matter of privilege that a member of this committee is able to ask for unanimous consent at any point. That would be a dilatory motion. But we have a situation here where the chair ruled, in my view, respectfully, incorrectly, and then is able to sustain his own incorrect ruling with a vote. So effectively what is happening here is you can dispose of decorum, you can dispose of the rules if the Liberal members vote in favor of doing such. And in that case, what's the point of having any rules? And so I'm asking the chair, please, to allow Mr. Brock to move his motion, and let's have a vote. Let's deal with C-14, with bail and sentencing. Let's deal with that right now. But to vote to effectively to suspend the rules, to continue with this terrible piece of legislation, C9, is not appropriate.
Okay. My ruling, to be clear, was that it was an inappropriate time to make that motion. If you or Mr. Brock or others want to make a motion at an appropriate time, that's different. But we have already moved on from that issue. So if you have other submissions on this amendment, the floor is yours. If not, we can move on to Mr. Gill.
Could you please clarify to me what is appropriate time and what is not appropriate time?
Well, okay.
He can move a motion at any time.
Your colleague back there has the green book. Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. And I would like to talk about what I am hearing in the riding where I represent. And every single person I'm speaking to is talking about that we should be looking after C-14 first, because bail and sentencing is very important for all of us. And we all agree to a point that this is the legislation we have to put forward. And now we are delaying, and every single day we are delaying is causing problems in the neighborhoods, on the streets.
Point of order.
Mr. Chang?
How is this relevant to the clause by clause of C9?
It's not.
It is relevant, sir.
Well,
Chair,
no, because you're talking about a different piece of legislation. I'm imploring you, if you want to talk about C9, which is what we're here debating, please do so. I'll give you all the time you want. We have unlimited resources as far as I'm concerned.
I'm coming to it.
Okay, but you haven't addressed it yet. So
injecting me
in the circumstances,
for these
Mr.
kind of
Chang's,
point of orders, then I would not be able to
Mr. Chang's point of order, I've deemed appropriate. I'm going to give you the floor back. If you want to talk about this bill and this amendment, please do so.
Yeah, and it is important for us to understand what we are hearing at the ground level reality, and then we have to work accordingly. Our main purpose is to look after.
Point of order, this guy, his eyebrows are very distracting.
What people are in need at this point of time, whether it's C9 or C14. And you know, and we all know, in fact, that extortion calls are coming every single time. You know, gun shootings are happening every single day. People are scared. You know, families are being targeted. Businesses are threatened. These are the things that we have to look after, and I would suggest strongly that we should be looking after C-14 right now, and we have to support the motion presented by my colleague, Mr. Brock, and we have to move forward on that one.
Relevance again.
Mr. Chang?
Relevance.
I agree. Mr. Gill, you're still not talking about this bill or, more specifically, this amendment.
Mr. Chair, if that is the case, then I'll cede my time and then move on. But actually, you know, we should not be stopping anyone to speak when we are talking about the important legislation that need to be discussed at this committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Okay, any other further submissions on Mr. Fortin's proposed amendment? No? Okay, so before we put it to a vote, let me just remind you what I said at the outset. If BQ2 is adopted, Lib 1, CPC 6.
All right, so that's pretty much going to do it for that one. It is what we would call a incredibly slow news day. There is nothing going on right now. A whole lot of nothing.
It is widely believed that they're going to make a quarter-point rate cut today. That's widely believed. But even if that happens, it's going to be a question of what do they signal about what they're going to do next year. They're going to put out some guidance about what they're going to do next year. Also, how much dissent is there going to be of the 12 voting members? How many?
So, like, depending on what happens here with the Fed lowering rates or whatever they're going to do in the US, that could change a lot of things. Here in Canada, the Bank of Canada held the interest rate at 2.25. So not much going on with that one, but depending on what happens here with the United States federal government, I guess we'll see what happens.
Our viewer Libertas thinks it's going to be a hawkish cut, which would be a cut accompanied by them saying that they're not planning on lowering rates much in the year to come. Oh, I just, hold on a second. I saw one of our viewers mention something. Hang on a moment here. What is this report? Bloomberg is reporting that U.S. forces have intercepted and seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. They say Faytux News posted about this. So Bloomberg is reporting, by the way, hang on, I'm going to tell you what they're saying. So we have that news breaking as well. Bloomberg reports that U.S. forces have intercepted and seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. And Bloomberg says this is a serious escalation of tensions between the two countries. The seizure might make it harder for Venezuela to export its oil because other shippers would be more reluctant to load its cargoes. Also, they say most Venezuelan oil goes to China. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. That's just being reported by Bloomberg. Again, Bloomberg reports that U.S. forces have intercepted and seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. All right. Anyways, we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about that. But Bloomberg is reporting that now. We'll have time to talk about that. We have 6 minutes and 45 seconds until the interest rate decision. Thanks to the chat for mentioning the Venezuela story, and we'll certainly have some more updates on that. Hey, thanks to Ship Clock 5 for your support. Thanks, Ship Clock 5. I appreciate that. Also, Gary Baines for the memberships. Daniel Israel for the membership. Thank you. Also, thanks for being a member. Damon Melody says, how does this impact me? Well, again, rates going down or up can impact inflation. It can impact how the economy is doing. It can impact employment. So all of that can affect you economically. But for example, if they cut rates, which they're expected to do, in theory that can push inflation up. So that's one way in which it could impact you. But maybe it helps employment and the economy, and that helps you in some other way. Even if it's not you getting a job, maybe a better economy helps you another. Maybe it helps your business or something. All right. So about 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and to repeat, after all this information comes in, we're going to have at 2:30 p.m. the Jerome Powell press conference. We will be bringing it to you live, and we're also keeping an eye on this Bloomberg report that U.S. forces have intercepted and seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela.
Wacky, crazy stuff. All right, let's watch this. Happening now.
Well, today, President Trump taking his economic pitch to the voters, kicking off his affordability tour in the key swing state of Pennsylvania.
So what will he say? White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt joins us now live. Caroline, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So, Caroline, this is the president at his best when he's on the road talking with the American people. What can we anticipate him telling the folks on the road?
Sure. Well, we greatly look forward to going to northeast Pennsylvania tonight, and President Trump is going to give a positive economic-focused speech where he talks about all that he and his team has done to provide bigger paychecks and lower prices for the American people. And don't forget, a year ago, President Trump inherited the worst inflation crisis in modern American history from the Biden administration. And I have watched every single day as President Trump and his tremendous economic team have been working to fix it. And they have through a very simple economic formula, which President Trump will talk about tonight. Number one, tax cuts. Within 6 months, President Trump signed the largest middle-class tax cut in American history. No tax on tips, overtime, Social Security. And you'll hear stories of everyday Americans tonight who will benefit directly from those tax rebates next year. You look at the massive deregulatory effort from President Trump and his team, which is saving American households and small businesses money. And then, of course, unleashing American energy dominance, which is having a direct impact on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And we have seen oil prices down 20%. In 22 states, the average price of gas is less than $2.75 a gallon. Gas prices are at their lowest point in 5 years. This is all thanks to President Trump's economic agenda. There's a lot more work to do, and he'll talk more about that tonight. But this is going to be President Trump's bread and butter issue, focused on the economy. Nobody knows it better than him.
Yeah, I think Republicans are hoping that the no tax on tips and all the ways that we're going to save in our taxes come April 15th next year, or whenever the date is, it's still April 15th, that we'll see our paychecks, we'll see more money in our pocketbooks, which will help the Republicans in the midterms. But these Democrats, they are running on the word affordability. I know Donald Trump has said it's a con job because we know that they want to raise taxes on the rich, and the way they're going to do this in free grocery stores and free buses, it's not going to work. But what should Republicans be saying? What should the Republican message be to combat what the Democrats are doing?
Well, the Democrats are the greatest con artists in American politics. They are pretending to champion the issue of affordability when they themselves created the worst inflation crisis in a generation. You can't create a problem and then turn around and say, I'm the best person to fix it. No, that's why President Trump was reelected, to fix it, and that's exactly what he's doing. So as President Trump has been screaming from the rooftops, Republicans need to remain tough and smart, and they need to be more vocal about touting the accomplishments of this administration. Again, inflation has slowed because of President Trump's economic policies. We see wages for the first time in 5 years are increasing by about $1,000 per the average American worker. We know wages were declining under this president. And as you mentioned, Ainsley, next spring, these tax rebates, that's real money back into the pockets of the American people for workers who work overtime, for those who collect tips, for those who are on Social Security. They are going to see that money back in their pocketbooks. And every single Democrat on Capitol Hill voted against these historic tax cuts. So you can't say you're for the working man and woman when you vote to raise their taxes. The Republicans and President Trump have a proven economic formula and agenda that's working. Right. It's focused on bigger paychecks and lower prices, and that's what President Trump will talk about tonight.
I want to talk about Venezuela, but before we go, is this going to be just a one-off, or do you have other events planned for the next few weeks?
I think you'll see President Trump out there most definitely when it comes to the new year. Of course, we have Christmas coming up in a couple of weeks, but there's nobody that loves the American public more in being out there on the road than President Trump.
So let's talk about what Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will be briefing the Gang of Eight, select House leaders as well as Senate, about what's going on with Venezuela. So, of course, there's this pressure to release the double tap, the second hit on that drug boat. And ultimately, the president says it's up to the Secretary of War whether he should do it or not. So your thoughts about releasing that tape?
All right, so we have a video from about half an hour ago here. Don Davies giving a review, a fall sitting review of Parliament. Or reviewing of the fall sitting of Parliament. Look, I really don't care what the NDP has to say. But the NDP are in a bit of turmoil, you could say. They're in a leadership race. And their party is pretty damaged after what Jagmeet did. So heading into the fall, and then when they come back for early next year, like I said, in a lot of videos now, there have been rumors flying around of a spring-summer election. I don't know if Don Davies is going to be the face of the party going forward, so this might be the last time we see him speak, I guess, to reporters like this, period. I could be wrong. They might give him the leader position again, but my God, that party is a joke. It's just a group of people grabbing at the smallest bit of power they can. It's really sad. It's a sad party.
Good afternoon, everybody. Bonjour tout le monde. You know, after April 28th, New Democrats had to deal with a new political reality in Parliament. And as we review the year that has passed and as we come to the close of the fall session of this Parliament, I think it's fair to say that the New Democrats have shown that we are relevant, strong.
Oh, is he continuing his speech from the press gallery? Because, my God, what a joke. What a good one. What a way to start off. Jesus Christ. The second channel that I'm streaming on right now has more of a say in Parliament than the NDP currently do.
United and a very important voice in the House of Commons. You know, Donald Trump's trade war has created economic uncertainty to the point where I think it's fair to say that we have a crisis in this country that has affected all walks of life. It's affected people in every corner of our country, and Canadians are worried about everything from the cost of groceries to whether they have an affordable place to live to whether or not they're going to have a job next year. And New Democrats set out, starting last May, to make sure that the voice of working people was expressed loudly and clearly in the House of Commons. And I think we have succeeded in doing that. We are the only party who consistently and reliably brings the dreams, the aspirations, the experiences, and the realities of working families to the halls of power in Ottawa.
If that were true, then why did you guys lose all of your seats? I was going to say pretty much all of them, but they're not even a party anymore. They're not even a party anymore. Come back to reality, Don Davies. Nobody wants you to represent them. Nobody. You got 7 seats. 7. And you didn't even vote on the budget. Half of you abstained. So you're not really representing much of anything, are you? The Orange Party blaming Trump. Yeah. It's all they have. It's all they have.
I'll give you a couple of examples of the impact that we've had this session. Millions of Canadian children will ultimately have access to a school nutrition program because the work that we did ended up forcing this government to make that program permanent. 6 million Canadians now get access to dental care because of the work that we did last Parliament and the pressure that we have continued to put on this government to not halt or reverse that gain. Finally, we're the only party that has consistently stuck up for the rights of workers to free collectively bargain. You know, when workers face a crisis in the economy, one of the few powers they have is the power to join a union and to fight for better wages and working conditions in their places of work through organized labor. And we sat and watched the Liberals repeatedly trample that right by invoking Section 107 to order striking workers back to work, whether it's flight attendants at Air Canada or Canada Post employees or workers on the ports or the rails of this country. And the New Democrats were the only party that ever stood up in the House and fought against those anti-labor positions. Certainly the Conservatives didn't. So as we reflect on 2025, I can tell you that we have a caucus that is united, strong, working cohesively, and I think that we can justly take some pride in the fact that I think our voice is relevant, strong, and needed more than ever.
He's just repeating himself over and over again because he has nothing. All right. let's get into question period. Statements by members. Look, the NDP might gain a seat or two back at most from the Liberals. I think a majority of those seats are going to head back to the Bloc Québécois. If I remember, I wrote this down somewhere. The Liberals have, I think, 44 Quebec seats. Yeah, right here. December 3rd, Liberal Party has 44 Quebec seats. So there's a chance that some Quebec ridings will go back to the Bloc. There's a potential that they'll go to the Conservatives. And there's potential that maybe the NDP will gain 1 or 2 seats back. Or they'll just be stagnant. They'll just stay at 7. I don't know, though. All I know is if an election were to happen, it will be very interesting to see exactly where the majority of the voters go to. If it's just dominant Mark Carney because the mainstream media claims he's the best thing in the world, or if people have actually like started to wake up a bit. I don't know. I would like to think people are waking up based on everything that's happened, but at the same time, the mainstream media is very good at what they do. Very good at what they do. So, let's get into some virtue signaling here.
Spirit of hope, generosity, and determination. From my family to yours, I wish all Canadians peace, joy, and good health this holiday season. Happy holidays. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Week after week, parents in Vaughan Woodbridge tell me they fear their children will never be able to afford a home. Home ownership is a key milestone in adulthood, a rite of passage for Canadian families. Yet under Liberals, that dream is slipping away. After promising 500,000 new homes, the Liberals now admit their new housing bureaucracy will deliver only a fraction of that. Build Canada Homes will cost $13 billion, yet will only add 5,200 homes per year. This failure is pushing families out of the communities that they love. Last year alone, more than 35,000 families left the GTA because they could not find affordable housing. Wow. And it's no wonder. Government-imposed costs and delays now make up between 30 and 50% of a new home. Conservatives have a real plan. Cut the GST on new homes, help reduce development charges, tie federal infrastructure dollars to building more homes, and get government out of the way so builders can build. We will restore the promise and hope of home ownership for young Canadians.
Here, here. Well done.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the people of Bourassa for the trust they placed in me in the last federal election. Serving the people of Montreal North and the entire riding is an honor and responsibility I take very seriously. Since joining the House of Commons, I've been fully involved, particularly in issues relating to public safety, quality of life, and community development. I've also worked actively with organizations, businesses, and municipal partners to improve services to families. I'm proud, Mr. Speaker, to have contributed to the efforts to secure funding for the Montreal North Sports Centre, an essential facility for our young people, families, and the whole community. Mr. Speaker, this is just the beginning. I love this parliamentary experience and I'm committed to continuing my work with determination, transparency, and accessibility, always serving the people of Bourassa. As this session comes to a close, I'd like to wish everyone a joyful holiday season filled with peace, unity, and hope. Bourassa can be proud, and we will continue to stand up for you.
For North Island, Powell River.
What constitutes a free society? What are the identifying characteristics that separate nations whose peoples live in freedom from those whose subjects live under tyranny and fear? I can think of no guiding principle more fundamental to this question than the existence or lack thereof of free speech and free expression. The legal ability to express oneself without fear of government coercion, oppression, or use of force, which is why I am so concerned by this Liberal government's Bill C-9, a bill that opens the floodgates and abandons the guardrails on prosecuting and criminalizing speech in Canada, including the reading of sacred and ancient religious texts like the Bible, Torah, and Quran. Make no mistake, once you cross this Rubicon, once you accept the premise that governments, that politicians in this House have the subjective right to determine what you may or may not say or what religious texts you may or may not read, read, we have lost the plot. Free speech is a Western value, a Canadian principle, and a human right, and we must always defend it.
The honourable member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
Monsieur le Président. Mr. Speaker. A fire destroyed an apartment building in Pierrefonds on the corner of Gouin and Boulevard des Sources, injuring one person and displacing 92 of our neighbors. My thoughts are with all the residents and families affected. I want to recognize the courageous response of our firefighters. Several local restaurants offered free meals to affected families. The team and I have been collecting a food and clothing drive with local groups. Sun Youth has contacted those impacted and put them in touch with On Rock Community Services. Thanks to the generosity of constituents, donations have already started to pour in. At this point, more than 50 large bags of essential goods have been collected. A big thanks to everyone who stepped up and donated. It's beautiful how our community has come together in this moment of crisis. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
For 40 years, the Chilliwack Alano Club has provided a safe, clean, and sober place to meet 7 days a week for those in recovery from addiction. This consistent availability ensures help and support is always accessible for vulnerable people in need. It's become a vital resource for groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and Al-Anon. The Chilliwack Alano Club is more than just a building. It's a place for community and fellowship where members and visitors can enjoy a reduced-price breakfast or lunch. Friends and families can gather for coffee or to play board games. Christmas parties, holiday dinners, and weddings are held here too, all in an environment free from drugs and alcohol. Alano is a hub dedicated to healing and recovery, recognizing the importance of social activities for those on their journey to live a clean and sober lifestyle. On behalf of all of those who have been helped by the Chilliwack Alano Club, thank you for the difference you are making in people's lives. Congratulations on your 40 years of serving our community.
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, a great lady has left us. The doyenne of our actresses, Béatrice Picard, passed away yesterday at the venerable age of 96, and yet we all felt she left us too soon. Béatrice Picard graced the stages of Quebec theatres for more than 60 years. She played iconic roles in more than 40 plays at the Duceppe, the theatre with which she will forever be associated. Think of La Mort d'un commis voyageur, or The Death of a Salesman, or Harold and Maude, which she performed just recently. She lit up our big and small screens alike and won over audiences with memorable roles. From Le Survenant to Un gars, une fille, from Saint-Florien to The Simpsons, Béatrice Picard was also, above all, the beauty of aging. As spokesperson for Les Petits Frères and Salon des Aînés de Saint-Jérôme, Béatrice Picard was committed to serving her fellow Quebecers, giving her time and energy. Yes, a great lady has left us. On behalf of the Bloc, on behalf of Quebecers, and more personally on behalf of the Duceppe family, I offer our deepest condolences to her loved ones and family. Thank you for everything, Béatrice.
The honourable member for Kings Hants.
Speaker, the Hants County Christmas Angels is a long-standing tradition in Kings Hants dating back to 1977 that is truly the definition of community and Christmas spirit. Every year, this volunteer organization seeks to raise funds to support local families in need. This year was exceptional. Over the course of a day filled with local musicians and local performances, $93,108 was raised for families in need right in Hants County. I would like to congratulate the Honorary Chair, Lisa Bland, and 2025 Coordinator Leanne Perry, and the entire Volunteer Board of Directors for their contribution to this significant effort. To everyone who contributed and supported this wonderful holiday tradition, thank you for making Hants County and our communities across Kings Hants an even greater place to call home, especially this time around the Christmas season. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish a Merry...
My bad for that. I clicked on a YouTube video. My apologies.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
After a decade of Liberal obfuscation and obstruction, Albertans have had enough. We need a pipeline to the Pacific. But yesterday, the Liberal member for Calgary Confederation voted against a motion that would have reassured his constituents that hope was possible. And they're applauding him for doing that. It reminded me of the time a few years ago when another Liberal MP from Calgary told Albertans that he would bang on the table for pipelines. He then betrayed his constituents by supporting the Liberal tanker ban and the Liberal No More Pipelines bill. It seems like history is repeating itself. But that Liberal member went on to lose his seat in the next election, while Albertans went through unnecessary hardships and lost jobs because of Liberal anti-energy ideology. Alberta has the right to develop its natural resources, and voting in favor of yesterday's motion would have been a step in the right direction. It would have reassured the province that the government could do something better. But the member did something opposite. He should do better. What a shame.
And the Liberals sit there and clap, not approving a pipeline. Wild.
Role of Deer Lodge Center plays in our community.
It just shows what they truly think.
Of the Deer Lodge Center Foundation. As the third largest healthcare facility in Manitoba, Deer Lodge has long been a trusted place of care for families, offering rehabilitation, chronic care, dementia care, mental health, and bariatric services. Its roots stretch back to 1916, when it first opened to support returning World War I soldiers. And that deep commitment to serving veterans continues to guide its mission today. Deer Lodge remains a place where both aging veterans and younger service members receive specialized, compassionate care. The Foundation strengthens its connection by raising funds that enhance comfort, expand programs, and foster innovative care. I'm grateful to the staff, volunteers, families, and donors whose dedication ensures Deer Lodge remains a compassionate, community-centered place of healing and dignity. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lanark Frontenac.
In this week before Christmas, one might wonder why write a poem at all and not just use AI. AI knows meter and rhyme, and all their uses can make Clement Moore's verse sound like Dr. Seuss's. AI seems to do everything better than you can. Flies drones and drives safer than a real human. Its advantage in word search is it found me 29 words that rhyme with Brookfield. But there are things too bizarre for AI to know, like what draws Katy Perry to Justin Trudeau. You can ask, but AI can't give you directions. Why Jagmeet Singh lasted through 3 elections. And AI can't explain to me or to you why the Grits won't vote to support their own MOU. Some places there are where AI just can't budget. It's going to take humans to balance the budget, which is why this poem was still written by me, but the partisan bits are from ChatGPT.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Friday will mark 3 years since the passing of my father, the Honourable Jim Carr. My dad loved Canada, its people, its culture, its kindness and tenacity, and all that it gave him. He taught me from a young age that those with whom we disagree are merely our opposition, not our enemies. He conducted himself with integrity, honesty, and compassion. Seldom a week goes by without someone coming up to me to share a fond memory with him, and each encounter ends with some variation of the same. He was a good man, they say. Whenever the time may come that I look back at my own parliamentary career, I hope I will be able to genuinely say that I have lived up to the standard that he has set for us all. In the Jewish faith, upon one's passing, we have an expression of condolence that we offer. May their memory be a blessing. Mr. Speaker, on that account, I can say with all my heart that with him in my mind, I stand eternally blessed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
On what should have been the proudest moment of her life, Maria Corina Machado was not even there. Unable to attend the ceremony after months of hiding and fighting the regime in Venezuela, her daughter accepted the Nobel Peace Prize on her behalf. Quoting her mother, "Our journey towards freedom has always lived inside us. We are returning to ourselves. We are returning home." For years, Venezuela's Iron Lady has boldly opposed the socialist Maduro dictatorship and the economic collapse it has engendered and inflicted on the once proud and free nation. At great personal cost for herself, Machado has inspired millions, both in her country and around the world. The Nobel Prize awarded her for tireless work promoting democratic rights for the Venezuelan people is therefore a victory not only for herself, but for all of those who've suffered under decades of socialism. May we all be inspired by her courage and determination to stand up for freedom over socialism and for the people all around the world. Thank you.
The honourable member for Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
'Twas 2 weeks before Christmas. I still can't hold back the smile. Even we didn't believe that we'd be back on this side of the aisle. Canada needed someone smart, a proven young steed. That rude old guy who blew a 22-point lead. The Conservatives were lost with the carbon tax dead, while visions of Trudeau on a yacht danced in their leader's head. The Bloc dreamed of king-making, of holding great sway. But His Majesty's loyal opposition? Oh mon Dieu, not even for a day. The NDP, well, they were reduced to 7. My gosh, even Nova Scotia now has 11. Now, for a new government, we sure have a lot of gray hairs. But we won 4 in a row, so who cares? A trade war with friends, what's ahead is a fight. Christmas came early, Canadians chose right. There'll be no Christmas election, of that I'm now certain, thanks to 2 Conservatives hiding behind that curtain. Now, I've thrown lots of jabs, but I promise they're in jest. To each and every one of you, I truly wish you all the best. I hope you all could hear me with my voice raised up. All we hear in this place these days are heckles. I hope the Speaker doesn't wake up. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Oral questions, questions orales.
All right, here we go, finally.
Mr. Speaker, who suggested to the Liberals that they should open up our borders to out-of-control immigration that increased the cost of housing, took away jobs for Canadians, and put so much pressure on the healthcare system while causing the decline of French? Well, it was Mark Wiseman, ultra-liberal, the head of Mouvement Siècle, who suggested that the population of Canada should be tripled. Why is it, Mr. Speaker, that every time someone brings into place politics that are against our interests, the governments appoint them? First off, because it's tangentially connected, we want to wish the best to our ambassador, Kristen Hellman. Mr. Speaker, she has been of incredible service to our country, and she continues to guide us well and offer good counsel. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is mentioning a policy that has never been and will never be the government's policy.
The Leader of the Opposition.
But the person who suggested this very radical policy, liberal policy, is Mark Wiseman. He said the population of Canada should be tripled to 100 million. And I quote, even if it causes Quebec to howl. This is someone who has shown contempt for Quebec and will not negotiate, cannot negotiate for Quebec. He suggested policies that would increase the cost of living, took away jobs, and increases the cost of our healthcare system. Why would he want to appoint this person as an ambassador? The Honourable Minister. You'll allow me, Mr. Speaker, to also commend and thank Madam Hillman for her service to Canada. I've had the opportunity to work closely with Kirsten over the last few months. I truly appreciate her friendship and her work for Canada. I understand the Leader of the Opposition is trying to extrapolate a number of faulty elements, certain aspects that he's mentioned have never been and will never be the government's policy. I understand he's trying to get a clip on tonight's news, but this won't be the one.
Opposition.
Canadians have wanted to know who came up with the idea of radical open doors, liberal immigration that overwhelmed our healthcare, housing, and job market. Well, it turns out it was Mark Wiseman, the Prime Minister's corporate crony, longtime Liberal elite, and head of the Century Initiative, whose stated mission is to triple the population of Canada to 100 million people, a policy that is designed to profit multinational corporations by driving wages down.
100 million people.
Why is it every time somebody comes along with an idea that harms Canadians and drives up their cost of living, the Prime Minister gives them a promotion?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wish to reiterate my thanks to our outgoing ambassador to the United States of America, Kirsten Hillman, who has furnished incredible, loyal, and very insightful services to the people and to the government of Canada. Mr. Speaker, I think our country owes her a debt of gratitude, and once again, the policy that the member across refers to has never been and will never be the policy of the government of Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, every time a Liberal insider does damage to Canadians, drives up their cost of living, they get a reward. It's not just with Mr. Wiseman, it's the Prime Minister himself. His policies are driving up grocery prices for the year to come. And what did he do as punishment for himself? Gave himself an $800,000 privately chartered flight to Egypt, where there were meetings happening in which he had absolutely no role other than a photo op. Why is it that Canadians need to line up at food banks so that he can go jetting around the world for photo ops?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I know in the spirit of the holiday season, the Leader of the Opposition is not surely not suggesting that the Prime Minister not attend as auspicious an event as the ceremony with respect to peace in the Middle East and Gaza, and joining multitudes of other world leaders at that occasion and representing and making Canadians proud for his attendance at that event.
The Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was conspicuously irrelevant at that meeting, where he had played no role whatsoever in the agreement, and yet he charged Canadians $800,000 for a privately chartered jet. Apparently, his own prime ministerial jet was not good enough for him. He does this while he imposes an industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, on fertilizer, on food processors that has driven 2.2 million Canadians to a food bank. Why is the Prime Minister being the Grinch of the grocery store, charging taxpayers for flights when Canadians can't eat?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's work on the world.
I can't hear. Also, I just would like to mention to the Honourable Member for Oakville West that I could hear her all the way here. So if we could keep it a little lower. We will now go to the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's work on the world stage with his counterparts to bring an end to the conflict in the Middle East is extremely important. He is continuing to be engaged on the peace plan in the Middle East. The plan, in fact, reflects Canada's long-standing positions that Hamas should have no role in the governance of Palestine, and the ceasefire provides an opportunity for the Prime Minister and other world leaders to continue to work on humanitarian aid for the benefit of all.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's refusal, even though he's in Ottawa, to answer my questions directly is not keeping with the Christmas spirit. And he's going to, this is at a time when he's driven up the cost of living so much that 2.2 million Canadians are lined up at food banks, that food prices are going to drive an extra $1,000 onto the grocery bills of Canadians next year, after he imposed higher taxes on farm equipment, fertilizer, food packaging, and more. Will the Prime Minister, instead of being the Grinch of the grocery store, reverse these taxes so that Canadians can have an affordable, delicious Christmas?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, well,
the member opposite talks about imaginary taxes, Canadians know exactly what's going on, and it's related to climate change, Mr. Speaker. Our thoughts are with the cattle farmers in the western provinces this year, Mr. Speaker, who have faced unimaginable loss of crop and loss of cattle as a result of drought, Mr. Speaker. That's driving up the price of beef, something that we can't actually control right now. But you know what we can, Mr. Speaker? We can make sure that Canadians have extra money in their pocket. That's what Canadians are counting on, that will be for them in these tough times.
The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is considering appointing Mark Meisman as ambassador to Washington. He is a co-founder of the Century Initiative, a policy that aims to increase the population to 100 million people. It's beyond Quebec's capacity to cope. I quote, 100 million Canadians by 2100 should be the federal government's policy, even if it makes Quebec howl. He used the term howl in English, which literally means the cry of a dog. Does the Prime Minister really think he can represent Quebecers abroad? The Honourable Government House Leader. As it's been said on numerous occasions in this House, Mr. Speaker, that policy that my colleague is referring to was never a Government of Canada policy and never will be. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, wise men say that only fools rush in. The Prime Minister already made an appointment last week that turned the entire province of Quebec against him. Let's hope that he won't make the same mistake twice. When Mark Meisman talks about imposing immigration policies on Quebecers, even if it makes them howls, he demonstrates not only his contempt for Quebec, but also his contempt for democracy. There are 44 Quebecers among the Liberals. Is there at least one who will stand up and tell his leader to appoint someone else? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The policy she is referring to for the 6th time in the House today, I want to reiterate, is not a Government of Canada policy, never will be. But if she does want to discuss culture, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased with our Minister of Culture and our investment, $4.1 billion on culture, official languages. We asked the Bloc Québécois for something for the preparation of our budget. They didn't come up with anything for the cultural sector. Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal drift towards authoritarianism continues after Bill C-5, which gives the federal government the power to bypass all legislation for its major projects, such as pipelines. Now we have Bill C-15. The Liberals are enshrining in law the right for all their ministers to break any law under the pretext of innovation. That's not all. Bill S-4, introduced by Liberal senators, also means laws can be circumvented. If the Liberals can decide everything without respecting the law or consulting anyone, can we still call this a democracy? The Honourable Government House Leader. Certainly, we can call it a democracy, Mr. Speaker. We are discussing these matters publicly, so I think that is the definition of a democratic debate. With respect to Bill C-15, it contains tools that are very important to advance our economy, to advance innovation in Canada, and to make sure that we can achieve great things together for Quebec to achieve its ambitions, for Canada to achieve its economic ambitions and other ambitions as well, Mr. Speaker. We are pleased to continue to debate these matters with the member and the House as a whole.
Pell.
Minister has a problem. A pipeline to the Pacific is very popular with Canadians. Canadians want to stop the practice of selling Canadian oil at a massive discount to the United States when billions of customers lie just on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. But the Prime Minister has never believed in selling more Canadian energy. He wrote an entire book about leaving Canada's natural resources in the ground, and he cheered on the decision to cancel the Northern Gateway pipeline, and his caucus doesn't support one either. So isn't the real reason why he voted against his own MOU yesterday is he has no intention of actually getting a pipeline built? He just needs to pretend long enough until the next election.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we support a pipeline. We support the whole MOU, which is a careful balancing of the economy, the environment, and it gets us away from the United States as a primary trading partner. And that's great news. It also is a MOU that balances the interests of Indigenous peoples and other jurisdictions. We do not support, and we are happy to vote against, games played by the opposition that make a pipeline less likely. That the Leader of the Opposition would do this is ridiculous. It lets Alberta down, but I shouldn't be surprised. Being elected in Battle River does not an Albertan make.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Voting against the Prime Minister's own MOU does not a pipeline build, Mr. Speaker. Getting that MOU through his own caucus should have been the easy part of the process. This self-declared master negotiator couldn't even do that. Instead, his MOU piles on new conditions and red tape, ties approvals to other projects, hikes the industrial carbon tax, and hands unconstitutional vetoes to other levels of government. It's clear he couldn't even get it through his own caucus. If the Prime Minister couldn't do that, why should Canadians believe he can get a pipeline through all his new hoops and hurdles?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Rachel Notley's new Democrat government, when in partnership with the federal Liberals, we got the first pipeline to Tidewater built in generations. A pipeline that helps pay for schools, hospitals, environmental investments, and supports good union jobs. Now, as a Vancouver Island MP, I support our Prime Minister's vision to build Canada strong with Indigenous peoples, the provinces, and the environment. The Conservatives want to ram things through, never mind Indigenous peoples, never mind the environment. Our thoughtful approach ensures that no Canadian is left behind.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Yesterday we found out that the Prime Minister spent almost $800,000 on a one-day taxpayer escape to Egypt to take a photo and not sign an agreement. Struggling Canadians are lining up at food banks, skipping meals, while the Prime Minister takes their money and skips town. We know that this is second nature for the Prime Minister to live large on other people's dime, but can he at least stand up today and explain to hungry Canadians why he treats their tax dollars like his personal travel fund?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I know the Honourable Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party is not suggesting that the Prime Minister of Canada should not have joined with dozens of his international counterparts for as auspicious an event as the commemoration of a ceasefire in the Middle East, an issue upon which, I might add, she has had a lot to say over the last little while. The Prime Minister of Canada represents Canadians proudly, and Canadians are proud when our Prime Minister attends these events and does incredible business with his counterparts from all around the world.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
I will tell that member that that agreement was signed despite the Prime Minister, not because of him. And I'd like to remind the Prime Minister also that in the Toronto food banks got over 4 million visits last year, and they're going to get even more when the price of groceries rises $1,000 per family next year. Will the government kill the industrial carbon tax, the packaging tax, the new fuel tax, so Canadians can afford food, or will he hop on another plane and avoid answering questions in this place altogether?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
The opposition wants to talk about nonsense taxes that don't exist on food, instead of supporting the very things that Canadians have told us time and again they want. They want a Canada Child benefit that's indexed to inflation. They want seniors benefits that are indexed to inflation. They want to make sure, in fact, I think almost all mothers want to make sure that children get healthy food in schools, but not these Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. They want to stand in the way of the very things that Canadians know help them at this time.
Honourable member for Haldimand Norfolk.
The Prime Minister promised to bring down the price of groceries. A family where I live in Haldimand, Norfolk, reached out to me in desperation. Despite a decent income, they said that they can barely afford groceries for their family and their household. When the Liberals took office in 2015, the average weekly grocery bill was $159. A decade later, it has more than doubled to over $338. Wow. So when will this Prime Minister cut the hidden food taxes so that Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
I got it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, members opposite are focused on imaginary taxes. On this side of the House, we are continuing
she
to
thinks
invest
it's funny.
in Canadians and the supports that they need, including the Canada Child Benefit, which is pegged to inflation and
it's
worth
funny.
up to $8,000 per child under 6 years old. In this country. So on this side of the House, we will continue to invest in Canadians and the supports that they need, and we would encourage the members opposite to show a little more support for those programs as well. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, there's nothing imaginary about the hunger pains that many Canadians are feeling. Many families are also financially squeezed with a mortgage payment and utility bills, which are rising faster than they can keep up with. These pressures have worsened under the Liberals with the rise in the industrial carbon tax, the packaging tax, and the new fuel tax. All of these hidden taxes are driving up the cost of food. When will the Liberals stop their inflationary spending and cut these hidden food taxes so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is clear that we don't want any family to have a hard time feeding themselves, and that's why, in fact, we invest in programs and supports for families precisely so that they can put food on the table and also have school food through the school food program. At the same time, we are creating jobs. This is what Canadians really need, and this is something we're noticing. Over the last 3 months has been an increase in the number of jobs.
Member for Brandon Souris.
Food bank usage is at an all-time high this holiday season in Manitoba and across the country. Harvest Manitoba's latest report shows that 60,000 Manitobans are relying on food banks every month, and almost 50% of them are families with young children. This is what a decade of food packaging taxes, fuel standards, and a rising industrial carbon tax have done to Canadians. So, Mr. Speaker, my question to the Prime Minister is simple. When will his Liberals finally stop their inflationary spending and cut hidden food taxes so that Canadians can afford to eat this Christmas?
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is from Manitoba, and if he's listening to Manitobans, he would hear that Manitobans are happy with what our government is doing. We're seeing $10 a day daycare for northern Arctic communities. We're also seeing the National Food Program. We're seeing investments in housing and infrastructure like never before. We're seeing the child tax benefits supported with increases, GST housing credits, and enhanced benefits for families so that they can heat their homes. Member opposite needs to get on board.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, when Quebecers and our truckers asked the Liberals to put an end to discount drivers, they ignored us. As a result, it's now the Americans who are asking the federal government to get a move on. I quote the embassy, simply targeting companies allows individuals who commit violations to create a new company under a new name. Mr. Speaker, there are 10 steps to take. The most obvious is to prevent temporary immigrants from entering the trucking industry. It's a step. That is the minimum. When will the Liberals take action? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend should speak to the Association des Camionneurs du Québec, who welcome the work of the government, the work of my colleague, the Minister for Labour, myself, and the Minister of Finance. We've instituted a number of measures specifically to put an end to this relic of the Harper days, where there were these discount drivers on the roads, and it was made possible. Now, Mr. Speaker, We've taken a number of steps to eliminate this. We are working in cooperation with the provinces, and the member should also welcome these efforts. The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, the Association des Camionneurs du Québec support our 10 measures. How many have the Liberals brought in? 1. The Liberals are doing nothing because they are infiltrated top to bottom by these discount drivers. The Prime Minister had, as an organizer and donor in his campaign, the spokesperson for a new association defending these low-cost drivers. Not 1, not 2, but 10 Liberal members showed up at that conventioning, establishing that organization in 2023. They received donations from the promoters of discount drivers. Now the Liberals have to make a choice. Are they going to protect people on the road, or are they going to continue to protect these discount drivers? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, this government has implemented far more than a single measure, Mr. Speaker. We scrapped the T4A moratorium. We have the sharing of information between the agency and the Labour Department. We made sure that inspections of the Labour work was happening. The Labour Department was on, that there were blitzes. Now we're asking the provinces. We're hoping that they will focus on the certifications, issuance of driver's license, and the rest. That is the work of provinces. That the Bloc member want us to take over Quebec areas of jurisdiction? I don't think so. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent at Gowinrac. Mr. Speaker, in Canadian diplomacy, there is no position more important than that of Canadian ambassador to the United States. That person who holds that position must be very tightly connected with the Prime Minister. Now we hear Mr. Mike Wiseman might be appointed by the Prime Minister. This individual supports the initiative of the century, namely a population of 100 million by 2100. And he did even worse. He said, even if it makes Quebec howl. Mr. Speaker, why would the government appoint someone who insults Quebecers? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, with all the appreciation I have for my colleague across the way, the simple fact that he is repeating the very same question his leader asked, just to have a clip on tonight's news, perhaps at 6 p.m. show or maybe with Madame Galipo's show, he knows full well, Mr. Speaker, that public policy, those that he's referring to, have never been the Liberal government's public policies. They will never be. I understand he's trying to make something out of this, but it won't work. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent at Gowinrac. What isn't working is that the architect of this very initiative will be appointed ambassador to the U.S. Even worse, the minister knows full well that this very Mr. Wiseman is an opponent of supply management. So we're not inventing anything by saying that. That's the truth. Imagine the prime...
Supply management, like me. Qu'est-ce que le ministre...
What will the minister say to explain the appointment of a man who insults Quebecers and then is against supply management? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, our colleague from Quebec is giving me here an opportunity to inform him of the fact that as recently as last night, I was at an activity held by the Chambers of Commerce of Quebec. I had an opportunity myself to speak with the Vice President of the Dairy Producers of Quebec, and of course we discussed supply management. I was able to reassure my friend in Montreal last night that the government will always defend supply management. We will not be negotiating supply management with the Americans. The Prime Minister was quite clear, and I'm pleased to repeat this here in the House again before you.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Last night at the Justice Committee, Conservatives moved to immediately prioritize Bill C-14 and scrap dangerous Liberal bail laws. And what did the Liberals do? Shamefully, they blocked us. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Wow. And now we just learned that they canceled today's 8-hour meeting. What? Instead of stopping criminals, these Liberals are more concerned with prosecuting religious expression. Why don't the Liberals just get out of the way and let Conservatives finally fix the broken bail system? Get out of the way.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, methinks the member doth protest too much. We have watched he and his colleagues filibuster the work of the Justice Committee for many weeks on end. Mr. Speaker, he says that he's not responsible for it, but it's actually all on video. For hours, they go on and on discussing their preference for puppies or kittens when they, in fact, could be debating laws that are designed to keep Canadians safe. It's essential that we move forward with an aggressive campaign to
Oh, that's such horseshit, Sean, and you know it.
hate in this country, to improve bail systems in this country, and to ensure every community is safe.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations. The member may go ahead.
The Liberals had multiple opportunities to crack down on violent repeat offenders. Instead, they chose religious censorship over public safety. Liberal members from Burnaby Central, Dorval, Lachine, LaSalle, Mount Royal, and even the Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Justice, must answer to Canadians for why they keep obstructing the study of Bill C-14. They were given the chance to protect Canadians. They chose not to. How many more murders, sex assaults, and violent extortions are enough for this tired Liberal government to finally protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the speed with which this member will cite these kind of tragic crimes as a political prop is simply beneath this.
I don't know what to say to that. I mean, obviously, it's quite clear that I'll allow the minister to start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are now even finding a way to filibuster question period. In all honesty, Mr. Speaker, the readiness with which the Conservatives come to this conversation where they will cite heinous crimes to make a political point, but then stall the proceedings to actually advance the laws that police chiefs are asking for, that victims are asking for, that law enforcement from their own communities are deliberately asking them to get on with. What's getting in the way?
So, there's a problem when yours truly can't hear because there's too much noise, and then I have to stop it because I need to hear what people are saying. If the Honourable Minister would like to conclude his comments.
Mr. Speaker, the excuse they are using now to prevent addressing bail and sentencing is that they won't support measures that are designed to combat hate crimes in this country. We can fight hate. We can keep communities safe. The Conservatives should get out of the way.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, Conservatives on the Justice Committee tried 3 times to let the committee prioritize the study of much-needed bail reforms on which it would be possible for us to have consensus. But what was so pressing the Liberals didn't want to study their own bail bill. They launched a full-scale assault on religious freedom in this country that risks prosecution of those who express religious beliefs. And now the minister says after passing the amendment, he'll start his consultations. This is the minister that said he would rather spend time with his family. Could he do that instead of censoring Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker.
Oh wow, they actually muted the House. I haven't done that in a while.
Well, Mr. Speaker, because that member wrote the biography of the member for Battle River Crowfoot, he knows very well the tricks of the trade when it comes to obstructing legislation. But here's the problem that Conservatives have. We have systematically tabled legislation in this House to battle child pornography, extortion, intimate partner violence, to do bail reform. We have put border measures, we have put immigration crackdowns all in front of this House. What do the Conservatives do? Filibuster, jam, just like the book says.
The Honourable Member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians
Canadians expect jail time for the most serious crimes, especially those involving children.
The honourable member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
Canadians expect jail time for most serious crimes, especially those involving children.
Remember your Nova Scotia thing yesterday? Pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean...
I hope they just keep doing it. I hope they keep doing it.
You know... Yeah. We don't want strike three here, okay? So, because then I could always upset the order. I could always upset the order of questioning. The honourable member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
And they also expect laws that will withstand court scrutiny and respect the charter. Can the Minister of Justice inform this House about what the government is doing to preserve strong mandatory minimum penalties for imprisonment while ensuring they remain constitutional and enforceable, please?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague for her question and her support in advancing the Protecting Victims Act, which treats more seriously femicide in this country, which criminalizes coercive control, and which includes new higher maximum penalties for a range of sexual offenses. In addition, Mr. Speaker, this bill restores mandatory minimum penalties for a range of sexual crimes and trafficking-related crimes that were struck down because they were not constitutionally compliant. We are moving forward with a path that is going to ensure people who commit heinous sexual crimes, including against our kids, spend times behind bars. If only the Conservatives would get out of the way and let this House adopt the law.
The honourable member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, nearly 1 in 4 British Columbians are food insecure, and food bank usage is soaring. The Prime Minister told Canadians to judge him by grocery prices. Well, the verdict is in. Under this Liberal government, food banks are not just for emergencies anymore. They are now an entrenched lifeline of support. When will these Liberals stop their inflationary spending and cut the hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, opposition MPs are too comfortable with fiction and fantasies. British Columbians demand facts and the respect that they can tell the difference. Here are the facts. Mr. Speaker, we're delivering a middle-class tax cut to put savings in the pockets of 22 million Canadians.
Bravo.
We've made the National School Food Program permanent to save families up to $800 a year, and we're investing in 175,000 youth and student employment opportunities. British Columbians deserve the facts, Mr. Speaker, and the fact is we're delivering for Canadians.
The honourable member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Speaker, that member should be ashamed, outlining fiction and fantasy in respect to the challenges of British Columbians to feed their families. The 2026 food price report says grocery prices will keep climbing, $1,000 more next year, forcing families to compromise on healthy food and to rely more on food banks. Farmers in my riding, the breadbasket of British Columbia, tell me they're drowning in costs. Fertilizer, fuel, and transportation have all skyrocketed. Nationally, producers are taking on more debt than any time since 1981. Instead of raising taxes to grow, ship, and sell our food, when will this government face reality and lower food prices?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, as Christmas approaches, I'm reminded that there are 143 Conservatives over there who might as well be named Scrooge. British Columbians on my riding of Esquimalt-Saint-Louis
get a better one.
that Scrooge from Battle River Crowfoot doesn't want to feed hungry children in schools. That Scrooge from Thornhill doesn't want money going to seniors through old age security. That Scrooge from Haldimand, Norfolk doesn't want parents to get a check for childcare benefits. I sure hope that the Conservatives get a visit from the ghosts of Christmas present, past, and future so that they embrace the Canadian spirit of compassion.
Come and show that compassion!
The honourable member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
While Canadians can't afford to put food on the table, this Liberal Prime Minister spent nearly $800,000 taxpayer dollars chartering a flight to Egypt. While he was jet-setting, the reality here at home is that grocery prices have skyrocketed, and the food price report 2020 shows, quote, it's expected to get even worse. The report confirms that in 2026, Canadians will pay an extra $1,000 per year on groceries. When will these Liberals stop their reckless spending so Canadians can afford to feed themselves?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, our government is focused on creating opportunities. And let me tell that member, jobs are up in this country, Mr. Speaker. Wages are up, growth is up, but we're not stopping there, Mr. Speaker. We're creating opportunities for Hamilton. We're building big, Mr. Speaker, with the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history, which that member voted against. We're going to be building major projects in the national interest, community centres, hospitals, healthcare, Mr. Speaker. When are the Conservatives going to get on board, Mr. Speaker? We're doing the hard work on this side. They aren't.
The honourable member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind the member from Hamilton over there that instead of chirping us and heckling us, he should go visit a food bank in Hamilton. The Stony Creek Food Bank is serving 60 people per day. That's up 400% in the last 2 years. Last week, youth visits were up double compared to this time last year. It's no wonder food is so expensive. Industrial carbon tax, packaging tax, and the new fuel tax all raise food prices. Again, I will ask, will the Liberals cut their hidden taxes on food so that the
Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, record in this House speaks volumes, Mr. Speaker. That party has voted against every affordability measure this side of the House has brought forward. They voted against dental care, which is helping Canadians get to the dentist. Mr. Speaker, the Canada Child Benefit, which gives checks to parents to help their kids with food and clothing. Mr. Speaker, Build Canada Homes, which is going to reduce the price of housing in this country, Mr. Speaker. Automatic tax filing. That party's voted against every measure to help Canadians. They come in here, they say they support affordability, but they don't.
Honourable member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Mr. Speaker, Heather from Airdrie is a senior who has worked in Canada since she was 13 years old. And she and her husband paid their dues, but now, after a lifetime of contributing, they are, and I quote, next to having to use the food bank just to get by. It's unacceptable that after 10 long years of this Liberal government, seniors who built this country can't even afford groceries.
Yep.
When will this Prime Minister axe his inflationary spending, his industrial carbon tax, his fuel tax, and his food packaging tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
That's right.
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, the industrial carbon tax has next to zero impact on the cost of food. School food programs, on the other hand, lower food costs for many families. But the Conservatives voted against it, just like they voted against childcare, dental care, and affordable housing. Day after day, we hear the Conservatives talk about making life more affordable for Canadians. So why do they keep voting against the things that would do exactly that?
The honourable member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Well, there's a lot of people struggling in this country who would beg to differ. I'll talk to you about Justin, a middle-class dad from Airdrie, who says the cost of living crisis is eroding middle-class stability, with families being squeezed by soaring housing, grocery, utility, and fuel prices. And that's all because the Liberal industrial carbon tax, the fuel tax, the food packaging tax have increased the cost to grow, to ship, and to sell everything that Canadians need. So why won't this Prime Minister finally axe his inflationary spending and end his punishing taxes so that Canadians can afford a decent life once again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Albertans are steady people, sensible people, and they know imaginary taxes are imaginary. They know there's no packaging tax, and they know that wages are growing in this country, and while there is much work to do, we are managing a very difficult storm very well, and we welcome the members opposite to help us with that storm instead of whatever this has been today, because this has been wild. But Mr. Speaker, there is much work to do in this country, and we want them to help.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, at a time when Canadians are having trouble affording food, this Prime Minister spent $736,000 of taxpayer money to go to Egypt. A trip booked at the last minute, which tripled the price. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister's carelessness is done at the taxpayer's expense. At a time when next year Canadians will pay $1,000 more to put food on their plates. Will the Liberals end their inflationary spending and get rid of the hidden taxes on food so that Canadians can finally afford to eat? The Honourable Secretary of State. What we're doing is restoring Canadians' purchasing power, putting it in their Christmas stockings. We have put in place a series of measures which will make daily costs easier. $10 a day childcare. The Canada Child Benefit. There's a whole bunch of measures we are putting in place. We are also working hard to improve the economy so that there are good jobs across the country, including in my colleagues' riding. Merry Christmas to everyone. The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, out in the real world, food costs have exploded. This week, I heard from Ms. Ouellette that she is spending more on groceries than on her mortgage. Ms. Vallée told me that she has given up meat in order to keep within her budget. And Mr. Hardy said that people are eating chips and soda pop for dinner so that they can make rent. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister come down off his ivory tower and finally acknowledge what Canadian families are going through? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can see that the Conservatives are making up imaginary taxes quicker than they're making up question period questions because they ask the same thing every day. You know what's not imaginary? The Canada Child Benefit, which has reduced child poverty by 40%. The dental benefit, which 1.5 million Quebecers have signed up to. The National School Food Program, which has fed 100,000 of the most vulnerable Quebecers. Jobs are on the rise. That makes opportunity for all Canadians and all Quebecers from all over the country. The honourable member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that he could be judged by the cost of groceries. Well, now Canadians are judging him. Groceries are twice as expensive as they were 10 years ago, and the most recent food price report said that the price will go up another $1,000 next year for a family of 4. Today, families told me that they have to choose between milk and fruit. Some are skipping meals so that they could make it to the end of the week. In a country like Canada, that makes no sense. Will the Liberals get rid of their inflationary spending and their hidden food taxes so that Canadians can finally afford to eat? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. These are crocodile tears coming from the Conservatives. They say that Canadians are having trouble making ends meet, yet they are voting against Canadians' interests. We index the Canada Child Benefit to inflation. The Conservatives don't like that, and they voted against it. We put in place a dental care program for our young people and for seniors who are struggling. Conservatives voted against that. They're against that program. Why? Because it helps Canadians. Let's be honest. Conservatives do not have the interests of Canadians at heart.
Member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, during the campaign, I knocked on thousands of doors all over Halifax. I constantly heard the same concerns about access to health care. My constituents know that the federal government can and must be part of the solution to the problems in our healthcare system. Could the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship inform this House about how our government is contributing to this essential mission? Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my colleague for that question. On Monday, as part of our international talent recruitment strategy.
Oh God, here we go. Hopefully she doesn't have to answer any questions.
1. Rapidly bring over doctors,
Absolute
specialists,
nightmare
and
this MP
surgeons
is.
who are ready to practice in Canada. And 2, retain foreign doctors who are already taking care of patients in our communities. Thanks to this plan, our government will build a more robust
Anybody else but her,
healthcare
please.
system,
Just
one that can benefit all Canadians.
please not her.
Thank you.
For Dufferin Caledon.
For months, Conservatives fought to get the Stellantis contracts released despite the gag order from
Okay,
the
it looks like
Liberals.
this might
And
be
now
a
we know why
Melanie
they wanted
question.
to hide it. The so-called jobs guarantee that the minister was bragging about in question period only a few weeks ago was for 4,400 full-time employees at Stellantis. Sounds okay, right? Except Stellantis had 8,000 employees at the time the contract was signed. That would allow them to lay off 3,500 workers and still get the money. Is that why they fired 3,000 auto workers in Brampton, took the cash, and sent the jobs to Donald Trump?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
We are with our workers in the auto sector that are victims of the unjustified and unjustifiable American tariffs, and will continue to fight for their jobs. When it comes to Stellantis, we had a deal, they broke it, we'll go after the money.
Member for Dufferin Caledon.
You want to know what's unjustifiable? What's unjustifiable is giving a multinational company $15 billion and getting a job guarantee in the contract that allows the company to fire almost 50% of its workers.
Yeah, that money's
Let that
long
sink
gone.
in. They gave them $15 billion. They were allowed to fire 3,500 workers in Canada and still be in compliance with the contract. My question is this. This is gross negligence. It is incompetence beyond incompetence. How the hell has someone not been fired?
Cheers to that.
Again, we have pretty much unlimited freedom of expression in this House, but there are some words that provoke a reaction, even if they're not technically unparliamentary on the list.
Who cares? Keep it going.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
What's gross negligence? It's when these conservatives under Harper decided to do a deal
Oh, here we
to
go.
bail out GM and Chrysler and shook hands.
Melanie
with
loves
these two
Harper.
giants.
She
And
misses
you know
him.
what happened? 2 Ford plants closed, GM plant closed, and an Orient bus closed. We have no lessons to take from them. We were the first government to bring jobs back to the auto sector, 3,000 right now.
That's it.
In Windsor at the Nexstar facility, and we'll make sure that we get our money back from Stellantis.
Yeah, I bet, Melanie. Just like with the SDTC and everything else.
When the Liberal government was asked about its billion-dollar subsidy deal with Stellantis, the minister said to read the contracts and we would see job guarantees. Well, after her officials lied and were forced to release the documents, we see exactly what the Liberals got in return for Canadians' money. And I quote, "No penalties against the recipient should their aspirational target not be met." Why did the minister hand out hundreds of millions of dollars without any guarantee from Stellantis that jobs would be created?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The minister has answered that question twice already. But I'm not a mathematician, nor am I an economist. But when you talk about investment, I calculate that the Saskatchewan Conservative MPs that we have sent there, the 14 Saskatchewan Conservative MPs that we have sent to Ottawa over the last 10 years cost us $30,800,000, Mr. Speaker. No return on investment. People of Saskatchewan deserve better. But anyway, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
The Honourable Member for Compton Stansted. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, the Prime Minister announced that Canada will apply to host the Summit of La Francophonie in 2028. This is excellent news. That is a major event bringing together French-speaking countries from all over the world, and which leads to important economic and cultural benefits. I would like could the Minister of Foreign Affairs tell us a little bit more about this application and what we are doing to strengthen our ties with other French-speaking countries? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, the French language and Francophone culture are extremely important. They are at the heart of our Canadian identity. That is why this week we announced that we will be applying to host the Summit of La Francophonie in 2028 here in the National Capital Region. This will let us forge new economic partnerships for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, this is good news for the economy, and for the Francophone world.
For Pinoca Didsbury.
Speaker, I've just returned from Prince Edward Island, where all 10 Charlottetown City Councillors were present and voted unanimously to reject this Liberal government's gun grab. The 10 city councillors in Charlottetown clearly know better than the 4 Liberal MPs from that island. They know that lawful gun owners are not the problem. They know that their police resources are already stretched thin. They know the real problem is violent crime and with illegal guns from the United States. Charlottetown doesn't want anything to do with this Liberal government's policy. Even the minister himself has admitted it's a failure. When will the Liberals abandon this ineffective, useless $750 million boondoggle?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me be very
clear. Look who it is.
Mr. Speaker, we will be moving forward with the national program to ensure that those gun owners
program that didn't work.
Are lawful
Gotcha.
gun owners are able
All right.
to get
Thanks,
compensation
Gary.
for those prohibited weapons. 2,500 weapons.
Just wasting more taxpayer dollars over nothing.
Under the Firearms Act, we will be compensating them, Mr. Speaker. But my question to the opposition is, why do they continuously go against law enforcement? For example, on lawful access, why do they continuously vote against and stall legislation that's going to help the people of Canada, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Soon, families will be getting together for Christmas dinner. And what will be the discussion around the table? Disappointment in this Liberal government. Not only have they done nothing to bring down grocery or housing costs, but everyone knows that they have given up the fight against climate change. To quote the former Environment Minister,
my goodness.
It will now be impossible for Canada to meet its climate targets. This government is driving us off a cliff.
You know, he had me in the first half with the Liberal government's done absolutely nothing and they've made everything more expensive, and then he just went right to the climate stuff. You had me in the first half.
Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change, Mr. Speaker, I have said it once, I will say it again. Our government is committed to continue the fight against climate change. What is more, if you look at what we're hearing from the Conservatives, you will understand what it means to have one party in the House that does not understand what it means to fight against climate change. We are doing our jobs. We will continue to put in the work, and I hope that my colleague will support our climate plan.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George has a point of order.
There have been discussions among the different parties. Mr. Speaker, I believe if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent.
Well, there's none. The Honourable Member for St. Thomas, Elgin, London South, is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As members of the House are aware, we open our days with prayer each day, and I'm hoping you can rule on whether members will be protected by parliamentary privilege from prosecution should C9 pass.
I can't even hear what the member said, to be honest. So maybe, look, if the member could repeat what he said, I couldn't hear it, unfortunately. So to avoid having the member repeat it a third time, maybe we could have a little more silence across the room. The honourable member for St. Thomas, Elgin, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As members are aware, we open our days in prayer each day, which is a testament to the spiritual roots of this country. I'm just wondering if you can rule on whether our parliamentary privilege will protect us from prosecution if Bill C-9 becomes law.
The honourable government house leader.
On the same point of order, Mr. Speaker, it is absolutely absurd and outrageous to suggest that this Parliament would act to constrain the rights and the privileges of Canadians to prayer, to choose their faith, and to practice their religion in any way possible, Mr. Speaker.
So then you clearly don't know what your own bill is.
I don't see it being a problem. I don't see it being a problem. Any more points of order before we continue? The honourable government house leader.
Late in question period, the member from Saskatchewan suggested that public servants had misled or lied to a committee. I think that...
All right, I don't give a shit about Steve McKinnon. That's going to do it for today's live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining. Tomorrow will be the final question period of this parliamentary sitting. Anyway, I will be live tomorrow roughly the same time. I will see you then. And then going forward, like I said before, we'll probably just end up doing short hour streams because there will be no question period. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great rest of your day or night.